This is Women's Day, and it's Women's Month, just convenient. And throughout Women's Month, we wanted to have different women speak in our shuls and in our services to bring different voices in. And when I was thinking about who I wanted to ask to speak tonight, I was thinking about who inspires me. And Meg is going to speak, and she inspires me because not only is she an amazing writer and teacher, but she's an excellent mother and friend. She does it all, so I couldn't think of anyone better to speak for Women's Day for us. So please, Meg.
Thank you everyone. It's a great honor to be asked. I wouldn't have said yes if anyone else had asked me. It was only because Rabbi Emma asked me that I said yes, because she too is an excellent friend and an inspiring rabbi. But I'm going to come to that in a second. So I'm just going to get my notes out. So when Rabbi Emma asked me to speak, I said yes, but I felt quite dubious because I thought, normally when I speak publicly, and I do this for a living, I'm a professor at varsity and I talk about my books, I thought, I feel a sense of expertise, right? That's why I'm doing this. And I thought, do I consider myself an expert in being a woman? And I thought to myself, my only kind of expertise is I consider myself a woman, I consider myself born a woman. Does this make me an expert on women? No. So I thought about what did I feel I couldn't do tonight? I felt I definitely couldn't speak on behalf of all women. I couldn't even speak on behalf of all South African women. I couldn't even speak on behalf of all Jewish South African women, because as we are all aware, our identities as human beings are not homogeneous lumps. They are polyphonic, prisms of different aspects of identity and experience that make us who we are. So I thought, if I can't speak for all women, I'll just talk for myself and from my own perspective as Meg, a woman, and as a human being. And then I thought, okay, what do you want to talk about? Okay. And I thought, well, I know what I don't want to talk about. I don't want to talk about gender politics. I don't want to talk about any kind of politics, actually. I don't want to focus on all that's wrong and all that's missing, because by definition, the very fact that we need a Women's Day and a Women's Month is because there's a sense that they don't get enough airtime. So let's pause this and make sure that at least 1 month a year and 1 day a year, we remember to thank the women in our lives. So I thought, don't want to do that. So what do I want to do? I thought what I want to do is I want to use the opportunity to say thank you. To say thank you to women in our community, in our Temple Israel community, who have had a profound effect upon me this past year, and who I feel I haven't had an opportunity to thank, and who I feel in some ways do all these incredible things in an invisible way. So that's what I'm gonna do tonight, if that's okay. So the first people I want to thank, and this is very personal, and there's people I miss as well, but the first people I want to thank are the sisterhood, okay? I want to talk about soup. I want to talk about the fact that every Shabbat when I've come, there's always a pot of soup, okay? And soup doesn't just materialize. Someone has to chop, and someone has to sizzle, and someone has to brew it, and then someone has to schlep it, okay? And then someone has to serve it. And whenever I think of soup and the effect it has on me, I think of Allen Ginsberg's poem, Kaddish. Are people here familiar with Allen Ginsberg's poem, Kaddish, 1961 poem? It's a kind of incredible poem where he tries to make peace with his mother's death. He had a mother called Naomi, and she suffered from schizophrenia and suffered for many, many years. And there's one bit in the poem where he's talking to Naomi at the kitchen table, and Naomi recounts to him God has visited her, okay, in her kitchen. And I'm just going to share that with you. So he says to her, yesterday I saw God. What did he look like? I said, well, in the afternoon I climbed up a ladder. He has a cheap cabin in the country, like Monroe, New York, the chicken farms in the wood. He was a lonely old man with a white beard. I cooked supper for him. I made him a nice supper, lentil soup, vegetables, bread and butter, milts. He sat down at the table and he ate. He was sad. I told him, look at all those fighting and killing down there. What's the matter? Why don't you put a stop to it? I try, he said. That's all he could do. He looked tired. He's a bachelor so long, and he likes lentil soup. So I thought to myself, it's not only God who feels lonely sometimes and needs a bowl of soup. It's all of us. And I have to say, there's been times I've come in here exhausted as a solo mother, and the only meal I've had, which I haven't cooked myself all week, has been the soup and the other delicious things that the sisterhood has prepared. And I want to say thank you for that, because that soup and all the other things that you all make, and you do it with such humility and such grace, and then you serve it, and then you disappear, has nourished much more than just my body this past year. It's nourished my soul and made me feel a deep connection, sometimes through some quite difficult times. So I wanted to thank the sisterhood, and I wanted to thank you for the soup. The next group of women I wanted to thank is I want to thank the choir, and there's some members of the choir here. So I joined a choir for the first time in 37 years, and we are all preparing for the high holidays. And just like the sisterhood, strangely enough, the choir is 90% women. There's nothing that says sisterhood has to be only women, by the way, I'm sure. Okay, so 90% women, 90% women, and it's being orchestrated, conducted by a woman, and it's been the most incredible experience for me. I'm so grateful to the other women, right, three of whom are here, who have given me the space to find my singing voice again. Because quite frankly, I stopped singing in choirs after English boarding school, because it was a torturous, horrendous experience and humiliating. And it's been so empowering, and it's such a privilege to sing with you each week, where we find a way to harmonize our voices. No one ever judges, we're all fumbling along, right? And it's a truly spiritual experience. So I want to thank the choir women for helping me find my singing voice again. I also want to thank, and I wasn't going to mention any particular names tonight, but I'm going to mention one name. I want to thank Rabbi Emma, and there's lots of things I could thank you for, Em. And this is probably my last chance, only chance to do this, never let me speak again. And the soup's getting cold. But I've never actually had the opportunity in my life before, and I've lived in lots of countries and attended all kinds of shuls, to be guided by a female rabbi before. Not for like, oh, she's visiting for the holidays, or she's passing by on her way to California, to actually have a female rabbi walking at my side for years. And it's been extraordinary, okay? You know I've reached out to you a lot, and when my cat was run over, who was there instantly? But it's more than that. I mean, so all I can say about Emma is this. During COVID, I looked her in the eye and I said, Em, because I'm a solo parent, if anything happens to me, will you promise me that you will make sure that my son Jacob gets a Jewish education? I want you to make sure. And she said yes. And I knew I could trust her, hey? And you have since then. I mean, you invited me into your sukkah last year with your mom, right? And you and Jacob were reading together. She's given me the most wonderful books for him, created by her friend, the Rabbi Leah, Yeah, which we love. So I want to thank you, Em, for teaching me about what a woman can do in the rabbinical space and how she can take that space and bring it into my home and into my son's life. Okay, I want to thank you. And if anything happens to me, you're still stuck being his spiritual teacher, okay, even from Canada. All right, so I know I can trust you to give him the kind of education as a young Jewish man that I would want him to have. Okay. I have lots of other people to thank, but I also know that time is ticking along. So I want to finally thank another friend who's not here tonight, and another community of women who surrounded her, and Em, you're linked to this, because before I met you, I'd never seen a female rabbi bury someone before. Okay? Perform the rituals of burying a body. I'd never seen it in my life. And this friend of mine has had the very been in an unenviable position of losing 2 members of her family in 1 calendar year, is an only child, and I watched her with such dignity and strength and grace, not only help get her father's coffin to the burial site, which was a bit hairy at one point, but perform all the rituals that traditionally I've only ever seen performed by men. And she said Kaddish for her father. Okay, and until I came to the shul, I've never seen a woman say Kaddish for a dead parent before. That holiest of prayers, and it was deeply profound. What made it more profound was the fact that when we sat Shiva together, it was mostly women in her living room, surrounding her and praying with her and acting as a banister for her intense grief and her having to carry the entire weight of that incredibly important ritual of burying both parents. Yeah? Hedi, you were there. So I have learnt so much from each and every one of you in these different ways. They're what I call everyday miracles. And by saying everyday miracles, I don't mean to belittle them. I mean they are the magic which truly transforms and improves and bolsters a crumbling society and has the power to transform it, has the power to transform a lower element into a higher element. I'm almost finished, guys. I'm almost finished. There was a time, as the Zohar will tell you, where women were profoundly involved in 2 of the most significant miracles in Judaism. One was the splitting of the Red Sea, where it was Miriam and her women who sang the special code that was able to split the Red Sea. Okay? And the other one, of course, was when the golden calf was made. You know, the story goes, I'm probably wrong, I'm not an expert, but it was because the women hadn't contributed their jewelry that God saw a slither, poor, tired, lentil-eating God, ever disappointed, saw a slither of hope, okay? And we were given a second chance. We no longer live in the age of miracles. God is veiled, and sadly, women too are so often veiled in our society. What women bring, even in this shul space, I feel, often they are in the shadows, in the background, but they're making the daily miracles of life happen. And so tonight of all nights, I want you to know that what you have been doing the past 365 days, okay, has not gone unnoticed by me. It has not had no impact. It has not been in vain. Those actions have done good and have made me feel, Meg, this woman, this individual, that this is the sort of community I can be a part of. And I've never had that before as a Jewish woman. So I want to say thank you.
I promise I didn't tell her what to talk about.
No, she didn't. Didn't have time.
No.